Welcome to Mission Majjhima. Ajahn.
Ajahn.
So Ajahn, tell us about Majjhima Nikaya 51, the Kandaraka Sutta.
Okay, so this is the first of the what are called the middle 50 Majjhima discourses. So we've gone through a third of the Majjhima now. There are 152 discourses.
All right.
Yeah, we're a third of the way through, and this is the first of 10 suttas, a chapter on Gahapati, or lay people. So the next 10 suttas are all about lay people. And here we meet two lay people, Pesa, who is the elephant driver's son, and Kandaraka, who's actually a wanderer, a paribhajaka. And they come up to the Buddha when he's with a large assembly of monks, and the assembly is very quiet. And Kandaraka, who's not a disciple of the Buddha, is very impressed by the restraint and composure of this large group of quiet monastics. And he says as much, and the Buddha confirms that, yes, this is an inspiring group of people. There are arahants, people who are completely free from mental taint, and there are people who are training to be that goal as well. And what do? They practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So knowing the body in and of itself, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world, knowing feelings as feelings, mind as mind objects, dhammas in and of themselves, ardent, alert, and mindful, putting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. And Pesa is inspired with that and agrees and says that he, as we note in the way that he bows and is very deferential to the Buddha, we get the impression that he's a disciple of the Buddha. And he says that he, as a layperson, also practices the 4 foundations of mindfulness and is impressed with that. And he compares humans to animals, saying that the exact quote is that humankind is a tangle, but the animal is open enough. Venerable Sir, I can drive an elephant to be tamed. In the time it takes to make a trip back and forth to Kampa, that elephant will show every kind of deception, duplicity, and crookedness and fraud they are capable of. Whereas humans, we go all over the place. We are duplicitous in many different ways, and the Buddha agrees with that assessment, and then talks about 4 ways that there are 4 types of humans. There are humans which torment themselves, humans which torment others, humans which torment both themselves and others, and humans who torment neither themselves nor others. And at this point, Kandaraka and Pesa leave. Pesa says, wonderful discourse, but we are busy. We have many duties. And the Buddha says, go and do as you see fit. And they leave. And the Buddha says that Pesa was wise. If he had only just stayed a little bit longer, he could have attained some noble attainment. But as it is, the Buddha continues teaching to the monastics. Here's the elaboration. The monks ask, what are these 4 types of people? And the Buddha relates that someone who torments themselves is an ascetic, someone who practices this long list of self-tormenting ascetic practices, which we find and have found in other suttas in the Majjhima. They overfast, they basically torture their body in different ways, this non-middle way of self-torment, sleeping on beds of nails, agreeing to all sorts of doctrinaire ways of dogmatically adhering to rites and rituals. The second group of people, of humans, are those who torment others. And these are people like butchers and fishermen and wardens at prisons and people who punish other beings. The third group of people are people who punish both. And the Buddha gives an example of a king and a queen who basically, in an attempt to do some kind of rite of purification, torment themselves, scratching their backs with antelope antlers, and then crawl around the ground and issue forth and prescribe all sorts of animal sacrifice, which still happens today in different traditions. So tormenting themselves and others. And then finally, the Buddha elaborates on the group of people who neither torment themselves nor others. And that is, the Buddha gives an example of a renunciate path. Someone is inspired to go forth into this life, which is free as air, not cramped and dusty. And then they take on the path of higher training in morality, refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, actually full celibacy, the Buddha gives in this example, from lying, from harsh speech, from malicious speech, from idle chatter. And then even more than that, gives up laying on high or luxurious bed, from eating at the wrong time, from entertainment, from trade of various kinds. And then the Buddha says that such a practitioner, he gives a renunciant example, is content with just their robes and their bowl, flying just like a bird has only its two wings. So too a renunciant just has very minimal requisites. Then they practice seclusion, practicing the getting rid of the 5 hindrances, which are sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. They purify their mind from those 5 things, and they attain the 4 jhanas, and then they attain different psychic powers of being able to recollect past lives, seeing the passing away and rebirth of beings, and then attain arahantship. So that is the full perfection of the person who doesn't torment themselves or others. And the whole theme of the sutta is one of questioning to what extent are we tormenting ourselves and others or not doing that. So Ajahn, what did you find interesting about this sutta?
Just kind of following through your description of it, the beginning part is just the silent monks surrounding the Buddha. And you can sort of see Kandaraka, this wanderer of another sect, kind of comparing maybe what he sees there to other wanderers he's seen. And I think in the commentaries they say that the monks surrounded the Buddha like clouds would surround the peak of Mount Sinnaru. So just a beautiful testament to how actually our own comportment when we're relating to the teachings can, really inspire faith and that kind of devotion and care which we should hold when we're listening. So then Kandaraka notes how inspiring this is. And the Buddha basically says, yes, there are arahants and enlightened beings in this assembly. But then what's so beautiful is he actually focuses on the causes of those noble attainments, the 4 satipatthana foundations of mindfulness, as you noted. And Pesa, the elephant driver's son, notes how he also, the lay people also practice these 4 foundations. And just the accessibility of those teachings, these 4 foundations is something we can take into everyday life again and again. And you constantly see the importance of emphasizing this. Joseph Goldstein has said that often people will kind of relegate daily life to the lowest level of practice, and he tries to invert them sometimes and say, daily mindfulness is, where I put my most effort, and then walking, meditation, and then sitting, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. And it's a beautiful kind of note, and also to say that these 4 foundations are held out as a means to get through that tangle of humanity and life, just the clarity of looking at the body and the body, the feelings and feelings, mind and mind, through that tangle of humanity and deception, So I think that's beautiful. Then the 4 kinds of person, I think we can think of these as totally not applicable to our lives now. But I think it's useful to look at the parallels that we have in today's society. One who torments themselves. It's true we don't have ascetics quite like that, but we are so, there's so much self-recrimination in the modern mind and heart, and kind of just tormenting and torturing ourselves for past misdeeds or what we perceive as current inadequacies. Just to see that same flavor of self-asceticism, just harming ourselves, it doesn't do any good at a certain point. So to see that parallel, I think is really worth something. And then, the Buddha going into the graduated training, as you said, where he talks about this gradual training from keeping good ethos. And one thing to overlay onto that gradual training is a ladder of bliss. So he begins with what's called anavacca sukha, where once one has purified their virtue, their sila, they experience a blameless bliss, anavacca sukha, which is just beautiful. And then after they achieve sense restraint and guard the sense doors, they achieve what's called an unsullied bliss, abhayaseka sukha, a pure happiness. And then, that serves as the basis for the satipatthana, the 4 foundations, and the jhanas and enlightenment. And often this is something very accessible to us, just mindfulness, right view, virtue. And Ajahn Chah would constantly emphasize right view and virtue. So these are just some beautiful things to note that are really available for all of us, and I think useful in that. So Ajahn, what is the word of the week?
The word of the week is satipatthana. We've encountered it many times, but it means patthana, the establishings, the foundation of sati, of mindfulness, specifically the four knowing body and body, feeling and feelings, mind and mind objects, dhammas and dhammas. So a great foundation establishing we should all know.
That's a good word of the week.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you all in Zoom in about 5 or 10 seconds. And otherwise, we'll see you next week for Majjhima Nikaya 52. Ajahn.